Welcome back. Former Google CEO Eric Schmidt reportedly funneled money into the White House's Office of Science and Technology Policy over the past year. Now, this move, according to Politico, raising ethical concerns about Google's influence and the influence of big tech in Biden administration. Internal emails revealing that more than a dozen officials in the 140-person White House department have been associates of Schmidt, including some current and former Schmidt employees. John?
All right, Bianca, we're joined now by political analyst Mark Halperin. Mark, great to see you again. Before we get to our reoccurring segment, Data That Matters and Data That Don't, I wanted to ask you about this because we see the Daily Mail reporting that Schmidt has been lobbying the White House on science policies for years, going back to the Obama administration. But having that many former or even current employees, like I said, 140 at the White House, so closely connected to Google or Schmidt or anything else, is that normal?
It's certainly not unprecedented, but the sheer numbers here and the influence that Eric Schmidt has is certainly unusual. And even people within the Biden administration have raised questions about it. This is a guy who's very smart, very influential, as you suggested, been around Democratic politics going back to the Obama years, where he helped create websites and do other things. And in this case, I think it's a lot. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of influence for a guy whose corporate and philanthropic interests are very dependent on what the federal government does.
Yeah, kind of hindsight. Maybe they should have worked on the Obama enrollment care page instead of just those campaign websites for a little better, response. Anyway, let's move on to the data that matter and the data that don't. And Mark, we have some new polls out from NBC News on Biden. Let's get to them right away. Let's talk about your data point that matters. 38% of Americans are blaming Biden for inflation, while not a majority. It beats out Biden's explanations for inflation. Just 28% blamed it on COVID, 23% said they blamed it on those evil corporations, and less than 10% blamed it on Putin. So how's that working out for you, Mr. President? Biden's tax hikes or inflation, or I should say Putin's price hikes. That's what I'm trying to say.
Inflation is obviously, it's a substantive issue for so many families, but it's a huge political issue, John. Obviously, no matter what happens elsewhere in the world, even with this war going on, political analysts in both parties would say, strategists would say, inflation and the economy are huge problems for the Democrats. And this NBC poll, which is just filled with bad news for the president and his party, suggests, as you just said, that people are blaming the president. So this White House has said inflation's going to go away. Then they said their economy is still booming. Don't worry about inflation. They're getting their arms around the reality that this is what voters care about. And so far, voters are holding this president accountable more than they are those other variables. And that is bad news for Democrats because most people now believe this inflation is going to be through us through the midterms and beyond.
All right, let's talk about the data that don't matter. 27%, you say, doesn't matter. That's because these are the folks that doubt Biden's ability to manage the Ukraine crisis. Now, that seems like that would matter. That's a very low number, Mark. What am I missing here?
Yeah. Well, here's why I say it doesn't matter. It's certainly not great for the president, but it really, that public opinion on this kind of thing is not going to drive American politics. I don't think it's going to make the president feel he needs to change what he's doing. So it matters in terms of a measure of public opinion. But in terms of something the White House feels it needs to react to, I don't think so. I think they think he's got a pretty free hand, at least with the public. The Congress has been quite assertive on policy here. But again, I don't think that public opinion is going to sway how the White House conducts itself on this issue.
All right, my turn now. Let's turn it around. And I say the data that matter is the number 5, or I should say they are the number 5 and 24, as in May 24th. That's the day of the GOP primary in Georgia. And Trump has a lot of his chips in the middle of the table on this one. And his choice for governor, David Perdue, according to the polls, is struggling a little bit against incumbent Brian Kemp. And I want you to focus on something specifically that Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene said about this race. Take a look.
I am worried about our state of Georgia. We cannot have Stacey Abrams as our governor. She just is radically different from our Georgia values.
Now, notice she only talks about Stacey Abrams there, and she does not mention Brian Kemp. That's a different tack than the president is taking. What do you think about this, Mark? President Trump is, he often sees things that you and I don't see. This is a pretty big risk for him, though.
Who is that thin and handsome man in the sunglasses next to Marjorie Taylor Greene?
It wasn't me.
Couldn't make that out. Look, the former president's bet on a bunch of races that were pretty good bets in terms of winning nominations. He's got some candidates out there, like in Georgia in the governor's race, where his side might not win. And I think there are a lot of people in the press and Republicans who don't like Donald Trump who are going to try to make a huge deal out of any loss he suffers. In Georgia, it's clear who his favorite is. His favorite's behind. We saw what he did in Alabama, where his Senate candidate, Mo Brooks, he unendorsed. In this case, I think there's still time to go. But right now, this looks like a bad bet by Donald Trump. But again, I think the people who say if some of his candidates lose primaries, it's disastrous for him. We've all seen Donald Trump walk through a lot more than just a couple lost primaries. So we'll see how it goes. But I don't know that it's cataclysmic for him if his side loses. And I think you're right. Republicans are likely to unify, maybe even Donald Trump, around the winner, even if it's the incumbent governor, because bad news for Republicans if in a Republican year, Stacey Abrams able to win the governorship there.
And we know she doesn't want to stop there, as I talked about with MTG. She wants to be president of the whole earth. So no stopping Stacey Abrams in that ambition. Let's also talk about my data that don't matter, and that's a new Harvard-Harris poll that shows President Trump beating Joe Biden 47 to 41%. I'm saying this doesn't matter because at this rate, there's no way, Mark, that Joe Biden can run in 2024.
I'm very skeptical. I know he says he'll run, and some of his aides like to pump that up, but I just can't imagine the circumstances under which he would seek another term at this point. And it creates a little bit of a problem for the Democratic Party because if he's not going to run in the end, they probably would like to see some choices out there positioning themselves to do the things you need to do to be able to run for president. But he kind of freezes the field for everybody, including to some extent Kamala Harris as vice president. So I agree with you. I don't think we'll see a Trump-Biden matchup. Can't rule it out, but I don't think we'll see it. And I think today, I feel it's safe to say Donald Trump is much more likely to be his party's nominee.
Yes.
President Biden is to be his.
I'm going to put you on the spot. If it's not Joe Biden, who is it, Mark Halperin?
Somebody else. I really don't know. Today, I think it's Hillary Clinton. I don't think she'll end up the nominee eventually. But today, if the ponies went up to the gate and somebody shot him off, I think she'd be the nominee, and that would be obviously not a rematch of 2020, but a rematch of 2016.
Well, this is one of those punditry jokes I learned from you. If the Democratic primary were held today, I would be surprised.
I'd be very surprised. Yeah.
Mark Halperin, great to see you.
Good to see you, John.